welcome to another meeting with Zach. And we were just talking about before we started how you can tell we're in two different places in the world. So you're
Yes.
rocking the mango sweatshirt because where in the world are you?
I'm in Florida and it is
What?
freezing.
It's
Yes, I'm in my
freezing.
studio at my house. So we have had the coldest weather in over 20 years, Laura. We
Yeah.
had 3 nights consecutive with hard freeze. I'm hoping my plants come back. Like all of our plants here are dead because it froze. Like our plants cannot handle this cold. So we seem like we're in a different land and our Floridians don't know how to expect it. Fun story. I made a snow machine like what they use at the ski resorts where it's compressed air and water into
Yeah.
a very specific system. And I blew snow the other night for the boys so they had snow to play with. It was
Oh
that
my
cold.
gosh. That's, I actually remember meeting one of your boys when we were
Yeah.
in Salt Lake. And he was like, I was like, how'd you like being up in the mountains? And he was like, I didn't like it. The snow is cold. So
Yep.
I guess
He
Florida.
hated it. Yes. Yes.
Well, I'm in
Absolutely.
San Diego, California, and so it's 85 degrees here today. So hence I'm in the tank top in the middle of February and you're in the mango
Love
sweatshirt.
it.
Yeah,
Love it.
exactly.
That's amazing. I can't wait. We
Okay,
get some
so
beautiful weather next week.
exactly. Well, you're in Florida, it'll come back.
Yep.
So what we are going to talk about today, for those that now you're caught up in where we are in the world, is Zach has an awesome office manager group. He's been an office manager. He's now, there we go. You want to do the plug? What's the name of the group?
Right here, Dental Office Manager Leadership Network. We also call it DOMLN, DOMLN for short. We are approaching on 20,000 members, Laura, which
That's
is super
amazing.
exciting. We're gonna do something big when we hit 20K. So look out for posts on that. But it's a great community to learn, connect, and grow, and just do all the things office management. It's one of the most engaged communities on the dental platform and Facebook with over 90% engagement. Join in, ask questions, and let's have some fun together.
And that's what I was going to say is it seems like there's a new office manager Facebook group popping up every day, but your group is growing, active. You're in there helping, answering questions, getting people connected. So that's awesome,
Yeah.
which is how we came up with the topic today that we're going to talk about. Because as we've been talking about different parts of the practice
Yeah.
and we've talked about AI, which we love, but there's still one more aspect that practices those that do this are very and that are successful at it, like shout from the mountaintops how it's great. But there's a lot of offices that have not done it well or are afraid, which is outsourcing, which is the idea that you use a remote employee to do whatever the thing is that needs to be done. I did this back in like 10 years ago. I was working with a company outsourcing. So I've been a huge fan of it. So
Yeah.
as an office manager, before we get into like questions and things, talk to me
Yeah.
as an office manager about like your thoughts around outsourcing, when to outsource, how it worked for you in your practice, and then we'll jump into, other ways we've seen people do it.
Yeah. First off, I feel like this last like couple years, let's say 2 to 3 years, outsourcing has become more wildly accepted. But outsourcing is not a new tactic in our space or in any space, honestly. I mean, this has been common for business practices for 20, 30, 40 years. It's not unheard of to outsource some sort of your business. But for some reason, we put this as like the plague in a practice of like, oh, I'm not trusting anybody with any of my information. I don't want them touching anything. And a lot of that, may have been burned by bad experiences or expectations not met or set. And there comes a point where I think outsourcing becomes such a great tool because you remove a lot of these barriers that you have with in-person employees, and not that you can't have your in-person team, but allows them to be freed to do what's really important, which is dealing with
Mhm,
the patients in front of them and not
mhm.
doing the stressful task of verifying insurance or billing your insurance or making follow-up recall calls. I mean, there's so many different things that you can free up your team for. One, way more efficient use of your money, and two, an astronomical more efficient use of your time. And more times than not, when you outsource to a company rather than just a singular person, you have more than one team member that can attack it. So if there's somebody out on that outsourcing company, somebody else is handling it. So you're never dealing with somebody being out in that section of your system not being handled, where that
And
happens every day when somebody's sick.
I was going to say that's where I jumped into outsourcing years ago because we could not keep the somebody in the insurance position. Like
Yeah.
we had so much turnover in that position, and I was starting to build front office rocks. I was starting to travel more, and I
Yeah.
didn't have anybody I could trust doing insurance. And so one of the things for us is once we outsourced it, What was really shocking to me, honestly, one of the benefits I liked is because they knew insurance better than half the people I try to put in that position. But the
Yeah.
second thing that was shocking to me is my team was less insurance motivated because they weren't the ones who invested 2 hours on the phone with the insurance company. So when they presented
Yep.
treatment to patients, we talked about insurance, but it wasn't like the focal point because we didn't have such like skin in the game when it came to it.
I feel like 99% of people I talk to that have been anti outsourcing and then go into the outsourcing space have been wildly surprised of how much freedom they now have and how
Mhm.
their whole experience in the practice has changed, and patients seeing and noticing the difference of how much happier the team members are. And quite honestly, like I got into this conversation, I think earlier this week or last week, where I was like, doctors only look at monthly costs, but they don't actually look at like what it's bringing to the table. And a lot
No.
of times they'll look at like, okay, well, this cost me $400 a month. And I'm like, okay, doc, well, how much is a 3 surface filling? About $400, you know? So
Right.
can you do one more filling a month to pay for this? And then look at the revenue that this is going to generate over time, or the cracks that aren't going to be missed. What if you miss 10 patients this month with recall?
Right.
That's going to extrapolate every single month. And then 6 months from now, you're going to start feeling it, especially if you're a single doc practice. So they're always looking at these monthly costs. But like I did a pitch for a doc the other day, and I said, hey, like, could you find somebody to do this for 20,000 a year? And he's like, oh, there's no way. And I'm like, well, that's what it costs to do this. He's
Right.
like, oh, I didn't think about that. And I'm like, yeah. And you don't have to pay payroll taxes. You don't
Right.
have to pay 401k. You don't have them with PTO. You don't have them with health insurance or dental insurance. So there's so many ways to be efficient, but a lot of times when they think about we're outsourcing, now somebody's job's in jeopardy. Where
Mhm.
quite honestly, it's not once you get the correct systems in place.
Exactly.
And if you're
Exactly.
okay, I'm going to jump into the failures of outsourcing, which we
Well,
talk
let
about
me do
systems,
something.
right? Okay,
Me
yes. Yeah, go
fill the
ahead.
gap there because people who may not know you may not know when you said you were pitching a doctor recently. So you have been an office manager, you've been in the shoes, you have your big group where there's lots of questions about things there. But
Yeah.
tell us what you were pitching a doctor. What does that mean? And then you could jump into some of the other
Okay.
things.
Yeah. So, quick shameless plug. Zero right here. I'm the president of Zero Dental Billing. So, we're a remote insurance and dental insurance, a remote billing and dental insurance verification company. So, this is exactly what we do for offices all over the country. We are a remote service that is an extension of your team. We're part of
Mhm.
your team. And we tell everybody when we onboard or we're talking to a doctor, we want to come in and work alongside you. We're not taking things away or taking over and changing the way you operate and practice. We're absorbing, and then we're also going to give you tips and tricks of how to do it more efficiently. But then the person, well, what my office manager was doing this great. Now they don't have to do this anymore. Now they can actually go chairside and they can be a treatment coordinator on top of your office manager because they know everything so well. They built these relationships and they can do it happily because they have the time to do it. So there's a lot of beauty to outsourcing. And I've heard time and time again for practices of like, we have so much time, like
Mhm.
now to be able to get done what we need to get done. I mean, they literally be in a demo looking back at me with a stack of checks this thick and like, I
Right.
can't get to
Right.
them. Now they're
Right.
gone and they're in the
Right.
bank. And Doc's like, oh my gosh, now I actually have money in my bank.
I didn't have an
Right. Like there's so many things, so many things. And it's not just billing and insurance. Like if we get off of that, like there's recall, there's patient communication, there's
right. Phones.
patient billing,
Mhm.
phones. I mean,
Executive
there's so
assistant.
many. Yes,
Yeah,
executive
like
assistant,
doctor.
which we were just
Yay.
talking about.
You needing one. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So there's so many aspects that we can do. And I think going out of that and talking about why so many people are anti outsourcing is I think because of the failure stories. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, so what I was gonna just add to this, so yay, congrats that you're with Zero, that's a new move, so if anybody's been following you in your group, that's new, and this isn't a plug for Zero, but you've been on both sides, you've been an office manager,
Yeah.
and now you're helping offices, and one thing I do wanna throw in here is I'm a huge fan of AI. If you watch other videos on our YouTube channel, I talk about AI a ton, but there are certain parts of AI that all AI needs all of it needs human in the loop, but what I'm specifically thinking about with insurance is that it even more so we need a human in the loop if you're using technology because insurance is so specific for our
Yeah.
industry. So even when you are looking at technology to take some of this, just like we have me helping with the phones because I'm really good on the phones, you want people who know billing and insurance. So, okay, now that we've
Yep.
set the stage, talk to me about the
Yes.
mistakes was make, why things don't work well, and what suggestions you have.
Yeah. So First thing is expectations on both
Mhm.
ends. I don't think that outsourcers. So as a consumer and a provider, I've been on both sides of outsourcing. I think the big failure first is expectations from the beginning, from the provider and the consumer. I don't feel like they have married a set of expectations and systems, and that's why they have failed in the past and started this bad rap of like, oh well, I thought that they were going to do all this, or they missed all these things, but there wasn't actual time to, for either the office didn't do a good job training that virtual assistant or company of what they want done, or the provider overpromised and underdelivered.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the first thing of what I was looking into when we come in as a company and we're going to be working remotely. I can't just say, "Hey, Laura, can you go grab that for me?" Right?
Right.
Like that's hard. So we lean on a very robust communication platform that we can talk instantaneously with our team instead of having a, "Oh, have questions, give us a call at," and then you're due to do for a half an hour until you can talk to somebody. So one of
Right.
the things that you do want to look at any company that you're outsourcing is how easily can you communicate with this company to be able to say, "Hey, can we switch this up, or can I talk to you for just a minute?" How easy is it to get back and forth to change or update your processes? And then also the other part is the ability for the company to adhere to current office practices versus trying to change the office and how they're doing things. Because I think
Right.
that's a big problem if that's the only way they'll go, is this is how we do it and you have to do it this way. Because a lot of offices do a lot of things right, but there might be some efficiencies we can bring to the table. So if we can adhere to what they're currently used to, there's a lot less change on the team's end, that where we can slowly integrate some smaller changes as we go, rather than this new company comes in, takes over, and the whole experience is different.
Mhm. Yes, which employees don't like change, and
No.
so that's scary, so you're gonna get a lot of pushback if there's a lot of
Yeah.
change, but
Yeah.
integrating somebody or a team or a member of your team remotely, and then having them kind of together come together with a system that you
Yeah.
both can do and work makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And I think the easiest way to burn a bridge is really the initial expectations of, we're going to come in and execute this, and then it's not done on the first or second week. It's like, how do
Mhm.
I trust that you're going to continue to do this? And that's where, if you did make a failure, you have to own that failure.
Mhm.
And say, hey, yeah, we missed the mark there, and we're going to correct that, and we're going to move forward. That repairs 99% of situations. It's when you don't own
Mhm.
your mistakes and you don't move forward. But also, giving a new company learning a system. I always try to talk to dentists and just say, hey, I'm going to tell you right now, the first few weeks, you're going to feel clunky. You're probably going to see
Mhm.
some things that, like, oh, I want this different. Communicate that with me, so I know what's
Mhm.
going wrong. If you're hearing this from a company working from you, that means they're actually setting the bar very low in the very
Mhm.
beginning, because we want to learn what you're doing. And if we set the bar low, but we crush that, guess what? Doc and team are happy. But if we
Right.
set that bar really high and we don't meet that mark, then guess what? We have little room for error, and we've set ourselves up to fail. So I really
Right.
like to come in and set a bar, not to where it's so low that we're not doing anything, but just saying, hey, you can expect it to kind of feel a little funky for the first couple weeks. And it's all
Sure.
honesty, because we're learning your processes, we're learning your schedule, your providers, your team, who communicates well, who doesn't, who needs some more training, who doesn't. And then we can move forward with that. And once we start getting in that groove, then it's smooth sailing moving from there. And I'd rather
Yeah.
them expect a clunky experience from the beginning and know it's going to get good than expect perfection and it never make that mark.
And I say the same thing about AI. Like, you can't just
Yeah.
plug in AI and expect it to be great. So you've got
Yeah.
to, which leads to the communication. So with the employees that you're working with, how do you recommend staying in communication with them and how often? And then also for the doctor, because I think one of the things I taught at Front Office Rocks is how to be a gatekeeper so that people can't get to
Yeah.
your doctor. But in this
Yeah.
kind of scenario, the doctor should be in the loop. So talk about what
Hmm.
you recommend for
Yeah.
communication.
So for communication, there's a lot of different platforms, but I feel direct instant messaging communication, whatever platform you use, is the best, because if you need to get on a meeting, like, that'll happen no matter what. But a lot of people want an initial set of communication of, hey, I'm seeing this as a problem. They don't always want to jump on a meeting or jump on a
Right.
call or write a long email. Hey, this is missing this. Okay, got it. And then you're moved on with your life. So if you're able to message back and forth with your company quickly and not be in a chat bot. This is different than a
Mhm.
chat bot. but direct communication. Now, there are AI tools that are built into these that you can scrape your messages and look for keywords. So there
Mhm.
are AI tools that you can utilize to be more efficient with it. But getting that direct information, and then one thing we do as a company is we greet our offices every single day. So there's always an open line of communication every single day. I think it's extremely important to let them know, hey, we're here, and not just sitting in the background as not part of your team. We like to say good morning every single day and actually track every single one of those. We have our team being tracked and making sure they're greeting our offices. Now, when we
I
talk
think
about
that's good.
dentists, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm a remote employee for Mango, and I think that's super good
Yeah.
to do that because remote employees by default, you can't just turn around and be like, "Hey, how was your night last night?" So it's a little bit different for remote employees. So to take
Yes.
the incentive to, "Hey, I'm here. How are you? Good morning. Check
Yeah.
in." It's super important to build
Yeah.
that trust and bond between the team and the person.
Absolutely. And then the second part of it for what we do, the doctor's extremely important because this is his cash flow and his practice and his money. So we recommend on the first start is a weekly meeting where the whole team
Mhm.
is on there that's involved with the billing process. And then we end up going bi-weekly once we get real comfortable with their billing system. But we want them to see the progress every single week. We want the doctor to see what we're working on, what's missing, what team members are strong and what aren't. And it's not to call somebody out that's not doing their job, but to know that, it's a two-way street when you're talking remote. If one party can do all the work and the other party's not, we're still not going to see success. So we need to have
Mhm.
both of us all involved completely communicating well to execute what we need to execute.
For sure. What
Yeah.
about onboarding? So you and I were just talking about I've done some videos with Corey with Reach Team,
Yeah.
which is the remote employee company. And he and I've done some videos on Front Office Rocks, and we talk about the importance of onboarding because it's a new
Yeah.
employee, it's a new company
Yeah.
working for you. So what do
Yeah.
you recommend as a dentist office manager to make sure that that company or person you're working with is ready for the job?
Yeah. So you're asking me as a consumer or as a provider?
It's hard
Okay.
for you to be on both, but,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, I mean, if I'm an office manager and I'm
Yeah.
hiring a company or a team, a lot of times I see office managers, and in your group, I see like, "Oh, that remote doesn't work." No,
Yeah.
remote works. Maybe that employee wasn't the best employee a fit for your
Yeah.
company. We have
Yeah.
to hire new employees all the time. It's the same
Yep.
concept, but some of
Yeah.
it is on the office. Like, if you don't have a good checklist, policies,
Yes.
systems,
Yeah.
SOPs, how are they
Yep.
gonna know, you know?
Yeah, and that is a great and valid point. I appreciate you clarifying that because there's so many different ways I could go with that conversation, and we run into this daily. Like, so offices that don't have systems and structures, we kind of have to inadvertently, and other providers have to inadvertently ask the right questions to draw out from the office, but vice versa. When they're saying, "Hey, this company doesn't work," the first thing I say is, "Well, did you ask the right questions?" Kirk and I just did an awesome episode on our podcast, kind of talking about similar to this, and like you drive your conversations with questions, right? Like you have to ask the company, "Well, do you provide this? Okay, can you give me an example of what that looks like?" All the time I'm going in and they're like, "Okay, for verification, what does your breakdown look like?" Perfect. Here you go. Here's a snapshot. I'm actually going to send it to you so you can have a copy of it, and it's fillable so you can see everything that's on there, and then we can customize it. And you got to have data to back what you're saying. If a company's like, "Yeah, we do that. Can you show me?" and they don't have proof of it, it's like I would be weary of that because they might not have the experience and they're just trying to get on board with that. You want a company that's going to be open and honest, say that's not something we provide, maybe something down the future that we could look into, but it's got to be, you have to be able to ask the right questions of what you're wanting, because a lot of people are like, "Oh,
Mhm.
verification." Well, what do you want in your verification? Are you
Right.
wanting full breakdowns on everybody? When do you want a partial breakdown? When do you want write-offs to happen with billing? Do you do, what do you do
Mhm.
for out of network benefits? What do you do for this? What are you doing on your new patients? I mean, there's a slew of different things. And if you don't know what you want, then it's really hard to be successful because you don't even know what direction you're going. And a lot of these offices, unfortunately, are in positions where they're drowning, that they just need someone to take over. So that's where you have to have good expectations of saying, we're going to start with this. And a lot of practices, if they want a full suite of services, I say, I'm starting you with one thing because this is
Mhm.
what we need to attack first and get comfortable and start learning some systems for you and help you grow in this. And then we'll add other things on. It's
Sure.
always you, and you want to look out for this. Whoever's listening, whatever company you go for, if all they care about you is selling you on a premium suite, really look at that and listen, and maybe
Right.
listen to the other company that says, "Hey, let's start with this first because this is what's most beneficial to you right now." And
Right.
yeah, are we leaving money on the table? Actually, no, because I don't think you can be fully successful just jamming everything into this office and stressing them out. I think you're gonna make a lot more money if you do it tactfully and move them over and then say, hey, now we're ready to take on this portion for you when you're ready. It's a softer approach, it's more tactful, and you're more successful in the long run.
I couldn't agree more, and it's so similar to AI. Like, I've been talking about outsourcing for a while, and it's the same
Yeah.
thing with AI. You wouldn't turn on all these suites, all these things with AI and let people at I mean, let the technology at it, because we need to learn to trust it, we need the data, we need to know how we're gonna work with it, and it's the same with the employees. So, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Alright, well, so let's say one more last question then.
Yeah.
Let's say you're an office that you're getting so much pushback from. I mean, you deal with office managers all the time in this group. Like, this is the way we've always done it. And
Yeah.
I'm not changing. I'm not doing it differently. Or we've done it in the past and it didn't work. Like,
Yeah.
what piece of wisdom can you give a dentist or an office manager who's kind of fighting that battle?
Well, just because you've always done it in the past or you've done it before doesn't mean it was done well.
Hmm.
I think you need to get your mindset in a new light. There's I've gone over this a lot of times. I was taught the ham story where, there was a ham that was made, grandma made it. She cut the ends off the ham, put it in the oven. It was best ham ever. Mom made it same way, cut the ends off the ham, put it in the oven, made it. The daughter's like, "Mom, why do you make it that way?" She's like, "Well, that's how my mom's always done it. So go ask your grandmother." She asked her grandmother, "Well, I cut the ends of the ham off because it didn't fit in my oven. It wasn't big enough." And so the daughter's like, "Oh, we don't need to do that. It's just because it's always been done that way." And a lot of
Right.
times we get stuck in those ways. Well, that's how we've always done it. Well, is that always the best way to do it? Is that always the most efficient way? And you may have settled into this ability to get it done, but that doesn't always mean that's the most efficient use of our time. And not to plug the podcast again, but we had an episode, I think it's dropping or just dropped last week or it's dropping this next week. It's
What's
called
the
Toxic.
name of the podcast, just so people know if
It
they're
is Management Unfiltered right here
there we
with
go.
Kirk Teachout and I. Look at that. I got it already queued up, trying to be as
I
fancy as I
I
can.
got a closet door behind me, and you got
Just
and
swing
I
that
have
open
the
and you can see.
technology.
So Management Unfiltered with Kirk Teachout and I, and we talked about toxic positivity. And that really, this is how we've always done it. It works. And that kind of falls into that aspect of like just accepting whatever we're doing because that's how we've done it. That's not that actually doesn't produce any good fruit
Mhm.
unless we're challenging these systems. Like we build systems to break them, in my opinion. You push them to where they can get to a point of like, okay, where are the breaks in this? And there are some systems that end up being tried and true, and you want to keep them that way. But there's always little things that we can always become efficient with. And it's kind of that 1% mindset. You can always be 1% better. So with this, if it's been in the past, you're like, it didn't work. Well, don't go with the same company. Maybe demo another company you've never used before, one you may not have heard about, and say, hey, this is what we tried in the past and we struggle with it. How do you approach it differently? Or what are ways do you think it failed and why? And see what their input is and give them actually a fighting chance. A lot of times we'll get into situations with already them losing, right? Like
Mhm.
Doc wants this. I don't want it as the OM, but Doc wants it. So I'm going to let Doc get what he wants, but I'm going to make it fail. And that
Right.
also will not do anything good for you. You may be successful with that for some time, but light will start coming out and the doc will start understanding where the true problem lies. So give it a fair shot, look at it in a different light, and ask the right questions.
I agree, and I think staying in communication. When I outsourced, there was only 1 or 2 companies that did that. Now there's a bunch
Yeah.
of ya,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of
A
companies to
lot.
choose from. There's a lot to choose
Yeah.
from, but, everybody has their own experience. I had a great
Hmm.
experience with a company that I worked with, and I talked to 3 or 4 offices that didn't, and part of the thing
Yeah.
is they communicate with the leadership to say, because they can switch people, they can do
Yeah.
things differently, but if you're not telling the company or the employee who's not in your 4 walls, how are they supposed to get better? How are they supposed to
Yeah.
know? So communication
Agreed.
is
Absolutely. Absolutely. And patience too. I mean, we can't expect somebody to be perfect from
right.
day one.
Yep.
You really
Yep.
can't. I mean, you don't have team members walking in that are perfect from day one. So why is anybody else different?
Exactly. Well, on that note, this was great. Little both sides of the outsourcing game there for everybody who's
Yeah.
following along. Join his group. Do you have to be an office manager to be part of it?
You don't. We got hygienists, we got assistants, we've got docs, we got some coaches in there, and it's a very productive group because we all start somewhere. And my whole mindset is office manager groups aren't just for office managers. We need to have a community to help the next generation of OMs come in successfully also.
I love it. I love it. And when you're watching this, if you have any questions or topics you want Zach and I to talk about, put them in the comments and we will do it. Until next time, I hope it gets warmer in Florida. Thanks
Me too.
for joining in your cold front and during your cold
Absolutely.
thing there. So, all right, we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.